slap on that recording button. Hey, hi, hello. Welcome back, Alexandrian Codex. It's, can't see that. 1:54 a.m. Yeah, late night Alex hours. And I just got out of the bath after, like, hour and a half? 2 hours? Quite a long time, as I typically do. You know, I worked out, didn't really want to stand in the shower, so I wanted to just chill in the bath for a while. And it wasn't even my usual, like, scaldingly hot tea bath or anything like that. Nah, just like, nice, warm wetness. Well, I hate that. Hate that phrasing. Really wish I hadn't said it that way. It was fine. Um, I think there really is a noticeable difference between shower thoughts and bath thoughts. Right? Both kind of live in this introspective world, right? The same kind of headspace you get into when you're lying in bed at night and can't sleep, or um, the kind of spacing out you can do when you've been on the toilet for too long and just kind of forget why you're there, or sitting, outside of the bathroom or outside the home, you can get it like just like sitting and meditating or staring off into the distance. These kind of quiet moments where, for whatever reason, you have disconnected a little bit. You're not thinking actively. I don't know. It's hard to put it, right? But I'm sure the headspace is familiar. So I can't really say that I recollect exactly where my head got started on this. It's October. It's getting all spooky, but it's not it. I definitely had some conversations hoisted upon me, let's say, at the wedding I went to this last weekend about astrology. Oh my god. Yeah, quite a few. But that's not it. I'm not really sure what brought it to mind. So I don't have a good point to start this out, right? I'm trying to set up some kind of narrative, some kind of sequence of events to make it easier to jump into, but I don't fucking remember is the thing. In the past, when I've talked about magic, when I've talked about Wicca, when I've talked about astrology, I have not made any effort to hide my general disdain toward it. Particularly, to summarize it, it's very constructed. It's very intentionally constructed and historically recently constructed. Wicca, witchcraft, is practiced broadly, publicly, widely in the Western world, in the English-speaking world anyway, is a facsimile. It's a manufactured creation of the mid to late 1800s, and particularly the 20th century as well. There's no historical basis for it. There's no real cultural heritage behind it. There's no lineage or succession of practitioners, of belief, of doctrine, of anything. From a anthropological, sociological, historical lens and analysis, it's a farce. It is a farce, or at best, it's a reimagining of historical beliefs of peoples who would be called by Christians pagan. Right? We don't, even talking about druidic beliefs, we really don't know much of anything about Druidic beliefs and practices outside of like a few oddly specific things. And so too goes to a lot of the Slavic traditions. Those are a little better preserved, or any of the like mainland Celtic traditions, or on and on and on and on. When Europeans or European descended people talk about magic and witchcraft and all this stuff, it's fetishizing, right? It's really fetishizing. And that's my issue with it. So much of these modern practices are derivative of the practices of indigenous peoples, not circumstantially, not happenstantially, but by design. By design, the guys in the 1800s and the in the 19th and 20th centuries, so in the 18 and 1900s, who manufactured Wicca particularly, but also like modern Satanism, did so pretty explicitly by taking practices, beliefs, doctrines, etc., from a wide variety of indigenous beliefs, practices, faiths that are very real, or even as cynically as you could look at it, very real to those people. It's whole cloth cultural appropriation, and nothing short of it, right? So my distaste and disdain comes from this. It's very white. It's very white, and I don't mean in a European sense. I mean white in the sense of this manufactured, artificial construct used to take power selectively away from some people and embody it in other people, to take the bits and parts of certain cultures or nations or histories and sew it into this facsimile of whiteness, right? Which is a shame because God, wouldn't it be great if magic were real? Wouldn't that be fantastic, right? By definition, it'd be wondrous, wonderful, maybe not, but wondrous, fantastic. It'd be literally awe-inspiring. But it would only be awe-inspiring because it seems to operate by rules that we take for granted, realities that we assume that we share. Magic would not be exceptional, would not be remarkable were it real. It'd be mundane. Magic, were it real, would be as tightly controlled and hoarded as capitalist political influence, and there would be fingerprints of its use on broad display, just like there are of the richest 1%, the capitalist class misuse of drugs, weapons, and illicit substances or controlled substances, of illegal hunting, of flagrant disregard of other laws and guidelines and restrictions, both national and international. It would be as much of an open secret as human trafficking is today, right? Something that is very much attempted to be kept in the dark, but is a known secret, right? For the same kind of logic, logic is maybe a strong word. For the same kind of reasoning, I don't believe in secret societies, the Illuminati, New World Order, all that shit. God, it'd be so nice if it existed, right? If there really were some kind of coherent, organized, effective cabal that had some sort of goal in mind that they were striving towards. People find a lot of comfort in these conspiratorial wishes at a secret world because it gives a sense of order and structure and logical reasoning to what we're experiencing. It's a lot of the same fulfillment that people get out of spiritual practices, out of religious practices, out of any engagement with faith, right? And on a certain level, I can understand, respect, and relate to that. But the Illuminati don't exist, sweetheart. No one's in control. It's constant chaos, mitigated through our best efforts and worst intentions. No one is steering the ship. Not one small group. We all are. We all are through what we produce, what we consume, how we produce, how we consume, how we live. If you scale those things up, there's small repercussions, there's small echoes, there's small ripples, become amplified and amplified and amplified until you get societal tendencies, until you get etc., 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 right? And I don't mean to take some nihilistic lens here and be like, there's no magic in anything, there's no mystery in anything, there's no mysticism. I think there's a place for that kind of hope, for that kind of belief, but it needs to take a back seat to operating and existing in the here and now, in the material, in the flesh, in the mundane, right? Because the mundane, for all of its flaws, for all of its faults, for all of its problems, is our shared consensus of reality. Or at least the popular consensus of reality. And if you want to operate in a way to enrich other people's lives, to better other people's lives, to save, help, heal other people's lives, to the bare minimum reduce the suffering in other people's lives, I feel like operating from these areas of shared definition should be the primary emphasis. Now, please don't take this out of context as me taking some anti-theist, inquisitorial stance. But people have their faith, whether that be in, turtle bones, cards, soothsayers, holy writs and texts, prayer, drug fueled, or assisted spiritual journeys, but whatever the fuck. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm not trying to abolish faith. I have no interest in that. I just, when we have such a rich, genuinely rich and beautiful world that we share with unknown years of history, our own and the world's and the universe's, we have all of this to share with one another, to relate to one another, to connect with one another. And certain people and certain ideologies reject that in the interest of the next world, heaven, nirvana, the promised land. That kind of escapism is, in my mind, far worse than someone who just wants to play video games all day and not care about the world, or someone who wants to live on an island and say the world can go fuck itself. These people are actively in a state of denial or rejection. And I think a lot of my distrust and disdain for matters of faith comes from that. That seems so violent to me. And having grown up in the United States, having been raised Christian in a mildly rural, largely conservative part of the country, I can say as a matter of experience that it hurts people far more than it helps anyone. But again, not an abolitionist. I still long for this kind of, reason to exist, raison d'être, for this meaning, for this purpose. I have, much of my sentient life, adult life, anyway. As a teenager, I was fucking starving for it. And, I've come to the belief, at least, that we make our own meaning, we find our own meaning, and no one else can do it for us. Not really, not meaningfully, not satisfyingly. But the idea of prophecy, the idea of clairvoyance, the idea of cheating, right? Cheating linear time, cheating ignorance, cheating our limitations is temporal, fragile human beings. It's so alluring, right? And I won't grandstand and act like I'm better than that somehow. I'm absolutely not. I wanted for a long time to just, if I had nothing but time and money, I would find every card reader, every palm reader, every soothsayer, shaman, mystic, new age, old age, blatant fraud, true believer, everything in between, and just get a cold read from as many as possible. Because I'm not in pursuit of one specific answer. Yes, I have loved ones who've died that I don't want to do that shit. I don't want to pretend I'm talking to someone who's gone. I don't need that lie. I don't need the lie of some assuredness of my future. I'll find out. Right, I'll find out. What I think still lingers with me is this curiosity for a cold read, if that makes sense. For a real cold read. Like, who am I to you? Someone who doesn't know me, someone who has just met me or has done some superficial research on me, maybe at the most, to get a feel for me. Who am I? And I'm not looking for an answer for, like, oh, who am I? Tell me who I am. I know who I am. To me, I want a cold read. Who do I present as? How am I read? Truly and genuinely. What assumptions do people make about me with only the information that I give? That I'm deeply curious about, because I care, right? I do put on certain affectations, dress and style a certain way that gives me the ability to put on the auspices of not being approachable, not wanting to be approached, but at the same time, I'd like to think there's a good degree of control there. Because I'm not a standoffish person. I just put on that mask when I don't want to be bothered. And I think if you take away a lot of the mysticism, a lot of the magic, a lot of the unknown of so many of these practices, so many of these conventions, there's a lot of value there. Not even to talk about organized religion, because that's its own thing. The organizational power of those institutions, the like social and communal influence and power and potential of those institutions is mind-boggling and astounding. It's a shame it's not used better. But just in the sense of like meditating or reading your daily astrology outlook, which is completely different from wherever you get it, which is how you know. Obviously, it's absolute horseshit. But it being a lie, it being a fiction, does not remove its value. And I want to be adamant on this point. I'm not. When I was a teenager, I'd make a great point. It's all bullshit. Yeah, it is. But like, fuck, dude, so much about our lives is bullshit. The idea that money has any kind of power is an illusion. It's a shared illusion. It's a shared concept that's immaterial, but that we agree upon and operate by. The same idea of like national borders or so many other things are just not real. They're in no way real. They're only real through the way these ideas influence and impact our actions and our lives. So in that way, astrology is very real. Very powerful. Mysticism and divination in all of its forms is incredibly potent. Not because it's real, but because people want it to be real. And because some people find it to be real for them. The questions that are raised in meditation, across various practices, in a tarot reading, in astrology, in having... Oh my god, the fucking sticks. I'm forgetting what the I Ching, what are those sticks called? I can't remember. But all these things, there's value in the questions. And in the time taken to contemplate them and consider them. Even if nothing else, that introspection is incredibly valuable. So, you know, I'm cynical, obviously, and I'm bitter. But I really do have a deep appreciation for these things. So at this wedding over the weekend, when someone was repeatedly asking for people's signs, you know, my reaction was exhaustion. just exhaustion at being asked what my fucking sign is. Because it's only as real as the belief you put in it. Right? And if somebody's asking that emphatically, rather than a means by which we might connect, what is communicated to me is that this is an obstacle to us really meaningfully connecting. That as soon as I say, is born in early April, in this hemisphere, roughly at this time, there's a long litany of things they're going to, if they're, you know, well studied, well read, there's a long litany of things that they're going to believe to be true about me. or indicative of me or characteristic of me that I have no control over whatsoever. It is, you know, a fundamental prejudice. In the same way that historically there have been prejudices against people born under certain stars or signs or seasons or in certain conditions. And it, you know, it doesn't carry as much weight socially now as it has, at least not here. But it is a source of irritation. Right? I don't want to defy definition. I don't want to not be pinned down or categorized or whatever. I would applaud anyone doing a critically competent good job at that. I would be utterly fascinated by it. No, what I am made uncomfortable by are things that aren't mine, qualities that aren't me being assigned to me just because I was born in the first 2 weeks of April in the early 90s in this part of the Western Hemisphere, shortly after sundown. Oh, come on, man. What? Even were the planets, their movements, the seasons to have those strongly definitive characteristic bestowing powers, would you really want people to be like, I don't talk to Aquarius. I've had too many bad experiences with Libras. Ooh, don't talk to me if you're a Leo. Like, how small is your world? How desperate are you to instill prejudicial order in it to do that? You know, a lot of these people, you know, are trying to protect themselves, have had bad experiences with people who share certain characteristics, or have been told that they'll find security in keeping an eye out for certain things. Obviously, there's value in seeking security, real or not, because of the sense of security. You know, even if it's not real, even if it is immaterial, even if it's a complete fantasy, the illusion of safety is why we have walls, is why we have the idea of inside and outside. Right? Like, my brain does a thing whenever I walk into a building. I feel safer. I feel more secure. I interpret an interior space and an exterior space as being completely fucking different in a way I can't fully express. I feel exposed when I'm outside. I don't at all when I'm inside. Inside feels warmer, even if it isn't. Safer, even if it isn't. Some part of my dumbass mammal lizard brain is like, ooh, I'm in a cave. I'm safe now. This is a different kind of space. Now I'm going to react emotionally to it differently. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's the same fucking thing. Like, there's some walls in this space, but it's the same thing. Yeah. I wouldn't say that necessary. It's a good point. Brains find it difficult to deal with things outside of contextual structure, and saying that that's what 90% of superstitions are based on. It's hard to say. You know, we can't assign a specific value to what superstitions are or are not based on. Like, it's in history, especially with study of early human history and anthropology, it's so fucking tempting. When you're an undergrad student, or when you're trying to be an undergrad, to make a lot of sweeping statements like, all superstition is based on this, or 90% of superstition is based on this. It is a fractal of a thing to try to to try to uncover and unwrap. Neither of those are the word I want. But like some superstitions come from really important physical circumstance. Some like myths and legends might just be totally apocryphal. But with good research and good study and good attention, typically, if it's big enough, right, we can find what these sources of myths and legends and superstitions are, and sometimes they're completely fucking ridiculous things. Too much nuance for a chat box. That's absolutely fair. I mean, it's too much nuance for a single conversation, right? People spend lifetimes trying to untangle these things and study these things, and the myths that we come up about, why we have myths, or the myths that we have, these stories in and of themselves may be proved later down the line to just be stories. Now, oh my god, so much a great example, so much history that came out of England in the Victorian era. Complete bullshit. Complete bullshit. Made up. So much stuff about culinary history that was passed around during the Victorian era, like where dishes came from, or who invented them, or how. Absolute apocryphal bullshit. Made up because it's interesting. This idea of like academic rigor and primary and secondary sources being closest thing to God in academia, those are pretty recent rigid structures that are broadly adhered to. There was a lot of lip service to it, but it was mostly lip service. So yeah, I don't know. It's definitely something I did a lot when I was younger, making a lot of broad statements about what humanity is, what is true, what is untrue. And honestly, getting older, it's just, what value is there in saying that something is true or isn't true? Like the idea of progress, the word progress. If I say that, a white, mostly cis-presenting person in the United States, if I say progress to a mostly or completely white audience from the same cultural background, progress typically, in the modern day, in our setting, in America, in these United States, is understood typically as technological progress, sociological progress. But sociological progress is kind of it's an oxymoron. Society doesn't progress, it changes. And the idea of something progressing is, again, it's gotten so tied into this idea of history and our idea of societal and cultural change around the Victorian era. More in the Enlightenment, but still in the Victorian era, is this notion that history is a story. It's linear. There's a beginning, and back then it was when God created the earth. It was this very sanctified story. So naturally, because it was part of God's plan, as they understood it, things would get better and better. There was, in their minds, an inevitable progress in which they were participating and undertaking of history. That society would progress, that technology would progress, that et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Oh yeah, it's absolutely not how evolution works, right? Minimally, but it's also just not how sociologically things work. Like, if you were to talk about the Atlantic Exchange or the Columbian Exchange, as it used to be referred to, of species and goods and people between Europe and West Africa and the Americas. The way it's written in history books is that it was, the monumental paradigm shift of progress for the age of sail, for the age of exploration, that tomatoes and potatoes and corn made their way over here, and these things made their way over here, and it's progress. Right? Look at all these things we have now that we didn't have then. But this central conceit at the heart of this idea of progress is an audience. Who is this benefiting? Who is this good for? Whose lives is this enriching or prolonging or what have you? The Atlantic Exchange was anything but progress to the peoples and nations of the Americas, to the peoples and nations of West Africa. There were individuals in West Africa who were enriched by it, but on the whole, I would not describe that as progress. If we look at technological progress, and the same argument can be made for a lot of things that are broadly just assumed at first blush to be good. And it's never that easy. It's never, ever that easy. And that kind of being hammered into me in studying history as a young adult, it shook me a little bit. Like I didn't believe in this idea of good or holy being like this perfect thing, but it's so damn comforting to have these kind of illusions. Once you start tearing them apart, reality gets a lot more complicated a lot more quickly. Yeah, it's when I went to school, to university, to college, in the admittance essays that I wrote, I said that I wanted to research history and anthropology, specifically because I fundamentally believed, and I still do, that the best way to understand myself. Oh, bitrate just crashed and went back up. Love it. The best way, or a good way, to understand myself is to understand what I am, biologically, but also what I am sociologically, culturally, historically, to get to know myself through as many lenses as possible, because we have an idealized, internalized concept of self to which we ascribe certain values, certain qualities, certain traits. But just like anything else, the more lenses or spectra or angles or perspectives that you look at yourself, the more complicated that idea begins to become. And so a younger me liked putting on airs by scoffing at things like religion, at astrology, at Wicca. No, yeah, it's just that's remarkable. And if you look into the history of astrology, particularly Western astrology, particularly modern American astrology, God, it's got some legs. It's got some roots. It really, really pulls from some old shit. In the way that God, only the Victorians could do well. Only English Victorians could do well. Let's see. As I remember, the Western astrological school pulls mostly from Babylon, right? I think its root is in Babylonian astrology. Babylonian astrology then went on to, oh, this is inverted, went on to Greece, Rome, because everything Roman was Greek and everything Greek was imported. It's not strictly true, but it's not strictly wrong either. So I think I'm remembering it being Babylonian. And looking at even the stars themselves and the constellations and how their shape and form and connection, these imaginary lines drawn between them, has changed over time. Yeah. Like in Babylon, let's see, I have notes on this. In the modern day, I'm an Aries, right? But if you take the same day, the same time, the same location, the same stars, and instead interpret it through the Babylonian system, I'm, oh god, the hired man is a translation. What is the yeah. Oh, okay, I don't have the translation of it, but it translates to the hired man. Not a goat. Not a goat at all. Some things are still kind of consistent in that a sheep was associated with it, but in a completely different context, not emphasizing the ram's horns, but more so in like the utilitarian labor of this animal. And even if the name had been exactly the same, even if it had just been didn't they have a 13th sign? Maybe? I mean, they only had 12, but occasionally, God, was it the Greeks that had a 13? It wasn't the Babylonians. It started out with a 12 system. Lord knows, I can't remember why. But even if you take something as simple as a rock, just the idea of a rock, if you take that idea into different cultures, their interpretation of it is going to be different. Maybe not wildly different, but the wonder in these things for me is how it's such a beautiful reflection of our capacity, our human capacity, to create stories where they don't exist, or create reason or meaning where it might not inherently exist. Like you give a class full of students a writing prompt of the ram or a sheep or just a picture of one, and you might get some consistent themes, right? Depending on their cultural background, religious background, educational background, whatever. But you do that in different nations across time, across the globe, and you're going to get wildly different takes on it. So when people today in the 21st century trying to connect with other people at a party are asking other people what their sign is, I don't know, do you want me to say Aries in like that I'm conflict prone and bullhead or ram headed and butt heads a lot, or do you want me to say Aries in the context that you don't know because it's not the popular context anymore, but it was the first context? So if there is any real magic and mysticism to it, probably the original is closer to that, you'd think, rather than the shit reimagined by a bunch of British guys in the 1800s. Then it mostly means I'm hardworking and a fucking communist. Yeah. Yeah, stories change and help form our perception of reality. Yeah. That's really the power of these things, right? And I haven't mastered, I haven't mastered anything, and I never will because no one ever does. I haven't gotten to a point where I've become particularly good at code shifting to talking with someone who's super into astrology. It's not my language. Uh, I know the history better than they do. I know the way that it's changed and developed over time, its authors, more than they do. But I don't know how to utilize that language, utilize that conceptualization, that worldview, that story in order to better connect with them. I know how to do it in a way that leans into and maybe takes advantages of preconceived notions that they might have, expectations that they might have, but that just feels manipulative. My frustration with it so often is with when engaging with other people. I'm going to say it. Young white women, when engaging with them, straight young white women for the most part, it's an obstacle. It's really an obstacle to making a more meaningful connection. And it's frustrating. Because I know how to do the song and dance with Protestant Christianity, for example, in the United States. Baptist, Southern Baptist particularly. I know how to dance and weave through that logical structure, that ethos, that philosophical structure in order to talk about within the oh my god, what moral framework and the literary framework of the Bible to talk about who I am and what I believe and why. Right, to talk about labor rights and socialism through the lens of the Bible. I'm very good at that. I'm very good at talking about how and discussing, not just like arguing at people, but discussing and engaging with that in a meaningful way because I know it. I was taught it as a kid. Oh yeah, I absolutely have the same problem with people who are super into Myers-Briggs and other personality tests. Honestly, I get more credence to astrology. That at least has thousands of years behind it. Myers-Briggs was invented by a totally unqualified lady in no context at all, and it's just been maintained over time. And the thing is, it was written by lady with no context. Okay, she had context, but it's bullshit. There's no sociology, anthropology. There's no social science to it at all. It's complete nonsense based on her preconceived notions. Other people have then gone in to like make it more scientific, but they've done a proud American tradition. They have brought nothing, done nothing, but just repackaged and resold the same bullshit with a new coat of paint. That's it. That's all the derivatives of personality tests that exist. And I'm, again, not saying this to be a cynic. If you look into the history of it, if you look into the science of these things, there's no science to these things. It's psychological trickery. It's playing on the same attractive qualities of astrology, of wanting to be special, wanting to have a purpose, wanting to have these specific things that make you stand apart, that make you different, that make you better in some ways. It's baseless. It's completely baseless. Well, I agree it can be helpful in self-selection, but is it really self-selection if people are, by this structure, being predisposed to think of themselves certain ways, interpret themselves in certain ways? Because it's taught as being critically unassailable. It's taught as being a hard science, even though it's not hard, nor is it a science. In the same way of God, just so many other personality tests, like quizzes or tests used by it's antiquated now, but like recruiters for different companies will have personality tests that they have people take to tell if they're predisposed to a certain thing. It's not actually testing who you are in any way, it's testing your ability to read and respond to the preconceived notions of the test writer. That's what it's doing. It's putting you in a situation to be judged and categorically assigned by someone who is as fucking clueless as you are. And that's my main issue with it. And with a lot of these things is that there's no real it's controlling in a way. It's prescriptive in a way that yeah, you know, we have so many tests like, oh, you're really good at chemistry, but physics you did terribly at. Math isn't your thing. And how can you be a good chemist if you're bad at math? But we categorize and pigeonhole people so much because as an industrialized nation, as a capitalist industrialized nation, we kind of need people to specify and to stay in those fields in order to perform certain tasks. It'd be nice if we were just a bit more honest about it, though. Yeah, because people pick their Myers-Briggs, it might give more insight into self-perception than astrology, which is assigned at birth. Maybe if you, I don't know, like they're both so prescriptive. Like your Myers-Briggs type is going to be predetermined by all these little factors of being told who you are your entire life up to that point. I guarantee if there were a long-form study on astrological signs and Myers-Briggs personality type, there would be a one-to-one. There would be a one-to-one, or at least not a one-to-one. There would be a strong leading inclination of people who have been taught to, even in passing, think of themselves this way, are likely to score as this or that or this or that. I don't think there's a lot of self-actualization or realization in it. Like in the same ways that we are from birth trapped into very strict, though seemingly not strict, gender roles that go on to form us in just innumerable, incalculable ways, so too do these even subtle suggestions that were fed along the way. These things can't exist in a vacuum, right? I don't mind the idea of a personality test if it were done in a way that encouraged critical thought and introspection. If it weren't just very much agree, very much disagree. But if it were something where you actually sat down and engaged with, in the spirit of like a real education, engaged with ideas or approaches or strategies or schools of thought that you might not have been introduced to when you were younger in your formative years. But, you know, that can't exist, or doesn't anyway. It's very scary to me when people take a personality test and then go on to make major life decisions based off of it. Like all of these websites that are like, well, based on your Myers-Briggs type, here's some jobs you'd be good at. This is what you should study in school. And the same thing is done with astrology. The same thing is done with, I mean, just generalized competency testing at the same time. And just because somebody hasn't been predisposed to or sociologically engineered for a predisposition to something doesn't mean that they wouldn't be very good at it, very skilled at it. Doesn't mean that they wouldn't fit a certain categorization or preconception beautifully. But, you know, we do not have a culture here in the United States that encourages self-determination Not meaningfully. That we don't have one that encourages self-actualization, realization. Mm-mm, mm-mm. We do in like the flavor of it. Like, you can choose how to look, what to wear, who you are, but from an early age, it's heavily reinforced how much to teach, how to teach, what's good, what's bad, what's right, what's wrong, what a boy does, what a girl does, what a good person does, what a bad person does. Don't do that, don't do this. And, you have to teach. But the way that we do it is a mold. And it's not happenstantially a mold, it's not circumstantially mold, it doesn't happen to be a mold that we accidentally created. It's a very, very intentional mold that we have. One that was and is designed and iterated on over time with a desired outcome. Typically kids in the United States, parents raise them in a way so that they succeed at our education system. They succeed at sports, that they have access to success in all of these clearly defined ways. It's not really giving you access to the full range of human experience or possibility at all. Oh, BuzzFeed might be right though, is the fucked up thing. Like Myers-Briggs or your astrology sign, it might be right on. It might be 100% correct. I can't say it's not. I can't say any of these things are complete bullshit, as I would be happy to when I was young and felt like I needed to prove something. No, I mean, if something really resonates with someone and they just really want to fucking embody being a Leo, if they've decided, you know what, this sounds good to me, I'm gonna make a lifestyle out of this. I'm just gonna wrap myself around this mold and just squeeze into it till it fits as well as a second skin. I mean, who am I to say no? Who am I to say that they shouldn't do that, or that they're, belittling themselves or wronging themselves or denying themselves? I mean, they're clearly not. They're clearly not. If people, I just want informed consent, right? I just want folks to realize that whatever it is, whatever universal good or truth that they are being fed is bullshit. And it's okay. It's okay that it only becomes real when you make it real. It's only real with your permission. That's the important part. That's the important part. No, I'm not talking about like gravity and evolution only being real if you let it be real. I'm talking about ideas. But, clearly we don't do too well with scientific fact or consensus, so maybe encouraging generations of people to question ideas and keep maybe a loose attitude towards the veracity of those. Maybe we're not ready for that. Maybe not. Yeah. Man, Luke, your name here is the darkest blue on my second monitor. I keep like fucking squinting like, what does that say? What does that say? I'm going blind. It's not you. It's nothing you. Nothing you have to do. It's I need to fuck with the color settings on that monitor. Is it possible for people to exist that honestly? That's a good question, right? Like fully and openly admitting the weird nonsensical psychological processes they use every day. I try to. I feel that it's possible to move more in that direction. But with like anything that's an idea, right? Like there's we're talking about this idealized concept of honesty. Can you ever be honest? No. No, you can never be perfectly honest, right? Just like you can never embody any ideal fully. But the spirit of it, the hope of it, the desire for it, the intention of it, I think so. I think so. Like, I'm fairly well studied in how our brains work and burp how everything we know around us has come to be. Not everything, but you know, I try. And this attitude of ceaseless learning, what lifelong learning, if you want to just fucking brand it with the 1990s, I think you can move in that direction. Like I feel like I do an okay job. It seriously helps to have even like a basic education in history and sociology and psychology and philosophy. Did I say biology? I don't remember, but like these basic components, right? Just like with math, like you don't take a physics class, you don't jump into doing physics until you have a basic mathematical understanding of how we're expressing things. It's just learning a language or a set of analytic tools. For me, anyway, that's how I try to go about it. Not some dogmatic like I always have to tell the truth, or this idea that through meditation and awareness that I can somehow reach some transcendent understanding. That's not how I go about it. Absurdism is great. No, I think I'm an absurdist. I'm not a nihilist, right? Absurdism, the distinction is life has no meaning. And it's, yeah, in philosophy, the absurd refers to the conflict between human tendency to seek inherent value and meaning in life and our inability to do so. Yeah, I don't know. With a lot of philosophy, it's what's the fucking point? This is why I wasn't a philosophy major. What's the point? What are you getting at? Like what's the material result drive? What actionable result do you want out of this school of thought? I'm a Marxist, right? So of course that's my take. Like, yeah, no, none of it has any meaning. Give it some fucking meaning. You can't, and there's no perfect meaning, right? So like absurdism, yeah, I agree with it, but it's not a. I would not describe myself as an absurdist, and in the same way, I wouldn't describe myself as like many other things. Uh oh yeah, Kierkegaard. Yeah. Oh yeah, I was fucking insufferable in college in philosophy. I wasn't that douche in the back of the class like, I know, but what if this and what if that? I was the one going like, so why do we give a shit what Plato or Aristotle thought? Like, all they do is shit on the sophists. I want to read what the sophists thought. And, like, Aristotle sucked. Like, Platonic logic and like they had some really bad takes, and there's this notion that it's important because it's formed some fundamental structural thing that was necessary again in this classically Victorian sense for us to progress to where we are now ideologically. No, it doesn't really work that way. There's so much mysticism and mythology wrapped up in the study of psychology that it makes me just, oh, I hate it. Oh, I fucking hate it. Diogenes, man, Diogenes is kind of funny, but that's about it. Diogenes lately, in the last year, really, I've noticed Diogenes is definitely getting a lot of popularity amongst libertarians and alt-right kids who are like, haha, Diogenes is like, he really knew what life was all about, man. Just like do whatever the fuck you want. Like, all right. Diogenes was a piece of shit who didn't contribute to his community in any meaningful way. Probably could only enjoy the lifestyle he had because he was born into wealth. He's a humorous character in the same way that like Rick Sanchez is. But do you want to be Rick Sanchez? Do you want to be Diogenes? No. No. You fucking care about people. You help people. You don't just piss and be drunk in public and make other people's lives worse, because fundamentally, for me, at least, Buddhism is right. The highest tenet that we can ascribe to, that we can strive for in our lives, is to make the lives of other people less bad. Good? Let's not even go to good. Just less bad. Diogenes did not do that in any fucking way. The chicken thing, haha, behold a man. Yeah, it's funny to read about, but how goddamn insufferable would someone like that be to be around? Especially if you take into consideration, again, this guy had money. He wasn't just some edgelord. Oh yeah, they thought he was touched by the hand of Dionysus or whatever horse shit. No, the only way he would get away with that is being born of a certain social strata, born of a certain class, and being amongst peers of that class. He was a rich, messy old white dude who, like so many other fucking Greeks, got away with so much bullshit they shouldn't have. Not to piss on people's parade. Diogenes as a historical character, funny, cool, interesting. Diogenes as he currently is in the popular American context and the conversations around Diogenes, I wouldn't say they're a dog whistle, but they're getting pretty close. They're getting pretty close. In the same way that, like, Pepe, inherently. Stupid frog. Silly meme. It's been bloodily ripped from the hands of its creator, who's like, I'm gonna make Pepe good again. No, you're fucking not, man. No, you're not. Some more Grimes reading Marx and the real mover and shaker. I'd give Diogenes more credit than being a fucking class traitor like Grimes, but that's just me. She's... I'll be honest with you. In my damn near 30 years on this earth, I have not heard one song of hers, nor do I desire to. Her strutting about in a steampunk-esque bodysuit that I'm pretty sure I know where she got it from, that I would have been super into like 12 years ago. How old am I? 11 years at 12? Yeah, around there. Years ago. Reading a clearly not read Das Kapital. Was it even Das Kapital? No, it was It was the pamphlet. It was the pamphlet, not the book. It was the Communist Manifesto. Yeah, that's just a photo op. Give me the guy trolling Plato about chicken being a man. That's got more character to it than naming your kid fucking R2D2. And I just... I hate it. I hate it so much. I get ads for those type of clothing companies, even though I can never pull them off. You know, I say this, a lot of pulling anything off is just confidence. It really is. Just false confidence will get you 90% of the way there with anything. If like even if people give you a fucking hard time about what you're wearing, just even if it really gets to you, it's okay if it does. Just act like it doesn't, and they'll respect it. Or they'll violently lash out. Like, there's... they'll respect it if you have the confidence and the ability to project a certain strength, let's say, or they might, violently lash out. But it's not like you're talking about wearing anything but straight clothing in the South. So I think you're probably good. I mean, in this beautiful city, I think you could wear just about anything outside of an American flag or a swastika and you'd do okay. Wear a swastika in my city, you get fucking punched. That's just beautiful. Beautiful city. Yeah. I definitely got a return to that same kind of headspace though, like hyper con being hyper conscious about like what I could or couldn't pull off or how I dressed or looked when I was in Arizona. Oh yeah, I got some of that. Got some of that. Did not did not love it. But I wanted to make a point and I'm probably going for 2 hours, so we're probably just a little over the halfway mark. I wanted to talk about, yes, I make fun of all these things. And I said I'd make it quick, but I definitely didn't make it quick, which is just me. Um, but but I have a tarot set. I have a tarot set for a few different reasons. One, it's a cyberpunk set and it looks cool as hell. Two, I needed a tarot set to play a certain game I wanted, and then I ended up not using it at all. We just use an online set, so it was a complete waste out of that. And I like having things that encourage me to make stories and be creative and prompts. I like having prompts around, like my tattoo. I am not practicing fuck, what school of Hinduism is this from? It's from a few, but there's one in particular. I'm not a devout Hindu, right? Or in any way, but I find the idea and the reminder very meaningful and important to me. Like the idea of fostering the part of myself behind expression, communication, and not just like noise communication, but effective communication. Uh, Language and learning and song, like that is all like very near and dear to my heart, which is a chakra that actually has a lot of things that don't move me so much. And the throat chakra should be like here, but I do like the idea of being employed occasionally, so that's why it's not there. And it's the same reason why, certain myths or legends or characters have deep meaning to me, is they inspire me to think a certain way or be reminded of a certain thing. There's a lot of value in that. I like characters like Toth, right? The god of wisdom. My boy was a god of wisdom, but not knowledge. Is that right? Oh, I can't remember. In the with ancient Egyptian theology, people changed hats depending on the dynasty. Not like change hats whole cloth, but like they shared roles or changed roles depending on who was in power. Oh, yeah, whatever. But these cards, and they're not going to show up super well, I think, are pretty. Well, they're pretty as hell. Oh, look at you, webcam, actually focusing on something. Wow, man, look at how shiny I look. I'm not that shiny. These are cool as hell. Well, it's kind of syncretic, right? But it's not syncretic in the sense that I, like, have any religious, dogmatic, or, like, sense of canon, right? I don't try to connect these things in a way that makes them all fit together. For me, it's more like what a fucking crow does for its nest. Finding shiny bits out in the world and taking them home. and making something new out of it. But not something with like clear rules or lines or anything else. And there's a line there. There's a very important line there between appreciation and cultural appropriation, right? And this is something I've struggled with quite a bit when I was younger, and now where's the line, right? Cultural appropriation, to me, is kind of unavoidable. Feels kind of unavoidable, but okay, white lady practicing yoga, not cultural appropriation. White lady opening a yoga studio, cultural appropriation, right? Because she's not just studying and learning and practicing about something, maybe in a way that's slightly divergent from how it was originally, but then she's going on to make it her own. She's teaching it, and she's spreading this new interpretation of it, this new school of it, as if it is the thing itself. Chinese food in the United States, cultural appropriation. Why? Because it's nothing like Chinese food in China. It's the idea of something rebranded and twisted in a way to be a mockery of its original self, of its original purpose, and also devoid of the context of the people, communities that practice it. Yeah, I guess it's gentrification more is what I'm talking about, right? Like, and I struggled a lot with this in college as well, because cultural appropriation and cultural exchange, there's like a razor edge line there, right? And ultimately the distinction is cultural appropriation is something to describe when to cultures or peoples or organizations or individuals, though mostly larger structures, the differential power relationship, right? One is in a position of power over the other, takes what it wants, and then fucks off. And typically uses those things to enrich and empower itself or disempower the other. When we get to individuals, there's a lot to take into consideration there. Okay, Wikipedia, what's your opinion on this? Unacknowledged or inappropriate adoption of an element or elements of one culture or identity by members of another culture of identity. Unacknowledged or inappropriate. That's so broad. According to the critics, cultural appropriation differs from acculturation, assimilation, or acculturation, assimilation, or cultural exchange in that its appropriation is a form of colonialism. Right. When cultural elements are copied by a minority culture, members of a dominant culture, these elements are outside of their original cultural context, sometimes even used expressly against the stated wishes of the members of the originating culture. Yeah, it's such a circumstantial and specific thing that you can only really call something cultural appropriation in retrospect. I guess in the moment you could call it that, but by definition, the people who are having something of theirs appropriated are not really in a position where they're being heard. Tell people that appropriating Irish culture is part of your cultural heritage is Norwegian. That's why you celebrate St. Patrick's Day. Your cultural heritage is Norwegian is just appropriating Irish stuff. You can have whatever the fuck you want. Norwegians in Northern and Eastern Ireland particularly, made off with quite a bit back in the day. But again, it's about power, right? It's about power. What do you, as someone who's more Norwegian, how different is your power relationship in the United States to someone who's Irish or mostly Irish, right? Or to me, someone who's mostly English. because of this invention of whiteness, it's all the same fucking thing, or at least it's slightly different flavors of vanilla. I don't know. That analogy kind of crashes and burns, but I yeah, I used to joke about like my English heritage and English culture, but I don't have any of that. Not really, right? Yeah, power dynamic is absolutely why it's okay to make that joke. Yeah, 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 yeah. And I used to joke about the same thing about Irish roommate I had, because English, Irish, you know, what a jokes. But that I think actually wasn't okay because of the power dynamic. He wasn't raised in an Irish cultural context, and I wasn't raised in an English cultural context. And if either of us were, we'd have more of a nuance on like, actually, you know, the English have been fucking over Ireland for a very long time. Still pretty sore in a lot of Ireland, and you know, a good chunk of the island is still under English occupation. So like, maybe don't. Maybe don't. Like, if there was a genocide in there, like, say, the potato famine, which wasn't a famine, it was an engineered disaster by the English governor at the time, maybe don't touch it, right? But then you get knee-jerk pushbacks from people who think that they're funny that aren't funny at all. Well, you know, I can't joke about this, and I can't joke about that. Well, then what do I have? It's a very easy rule. Don't punch down. Don't punch down. If something feels like punching down, if somebody says, hey, I feel like you're punching down a little bit, fucking cut it out. Very easy rule for comedy. Very easy rule for jokes of that matter. Don't order a black and tan in Belfast. Yeah, probably smart. Like, yeah, like me making jokes about people from Kentucky, or just constantly shitting on Indiana. Bitch, those are my people. I grew up there, you know. I get to do that. I get to do that, and I don't have to feel bad about it. But some asshole born and raised in New York or LA making fun of rednecks, that shit still pisses me off. That still irritates me. Like, even it's not actually that much of an issue here in the Great Pacific Northwest, weirdly enough, because a lot of these people have lived other places. But this fucking coastal elite attitude of like, you know, all these dang Southerners, like, hey buddy, I'm one of those dang Southerners, and if you look at the history of it, the labor movement in the United States was largely driven by, embodied in, Midwesterners. Don't you know? If you want a different kind of red flag to fly in these United States, maybe show a little goddamn respect. But these oversimplifications, just like any kind of, you know, bigotry, are used primarily divisively. I mean, locally and communally, they're used in a way to give people a sense of shared identity. But these shared identities can also, and are also, used to divide people. Yeah, don't forget Blair Mountain 100th year anniversary just passed for the Battle of Blair Mountain. It's crazy that it's been that long. First use of the United States, it was the first time the United States used airplanes in warfare. And it was against its own people, who were striking. It's good shit. Good shit. And so I kind of wanted to do a card pull, because tarot's fun, right? Like the last time I did this, I think I sat around looking at the cards for like 10 minutes, maybe. But God, like the ideas I had for like the story that they told, even outside of myself, was really, really provocative, exciting, cool, inspiring. Right, particularly because these have a sci-fi bent to them. It's very easy to imagine those stories. Man, I really want to run some tabletop games here before too long. There's a couple of settings that I'd really like to get into, but with these COVID times has made it difficult. And prior to that, my fucking sleep schedule made it difficult. I did have like a somewhat consistent game night with some folks done online, but like for various reasons that fell out, particularly people breaking up in the friend group who were dating and me not liking at all the way that people showed their whole ass in that whole situation and being very cliquey and very toxic to one another. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm not running these anymore. I don't like what I've seen here. It's disrespectful to this other person, and the lack of honesty and transparency is disrespectful to me. So I'm gonna not. So it'd be great to, I don't know, have a group of functional, communicative adults, which are a rarity, right? This is not me calling them children. Americans, people, probably, are bad at communicating and are cultured and raised not to communicate. So I got some ideas, but also just like a deep exhaustion at the idea of running and organizing another one of these fucking things. I could always look into running games at one of our many game shops here in Seattle, but I don't have that much of any relationship with anyone who works at any of those anymore. I feel like there's probably no short order of nerds being like, I have a wonderful idea for this 5th edition campaign that will run 16 weeks. Like, I really don't think they're in high demand. I should be. I'm fucking good at it. Had a bunch of people tell me over the weekend that was something they knew me for, and I don't know who the fuck they are. So hey, that's reaffirming, but we'll see. Okay. All right, let's not let's not draw a card. Bottom of the deck, so it doesn't matter. So anyone vaguely familiar with tarot will be like, weird. Doesn't say like coin or hearts or anything on it. It says Zent. Fuck is Zent? It's sci-fi, dog. So this deck has changed the suit names to be more cyberpunk. Just lean into it. Honestly, I think they could have gone further if they hadn't done that, but the art's cool enough that I'm not fucking with it. Or I am fucking with it. Okie dokie. You got the Apprentice of Wires. Look at that gas mask. Look at that. That's very cool. It's very cool. I should probably shout out who the fuck this is. This is the Neon Moon set by hey, authors. Put your name at the beginning. James Brothwell at pixeloccult.com or pixeloccult on Instagram or Twitter. I don't follow them. Probably should. Great stuff. So the Apprentice of Wires. Let's flip through here. Not Major Arcana. No. 2 of Wires. 3 of Wires. 5 of Wires. The Apprentice of Wires, or the Page of Wands. And I'm just reading all these like they're upright because I can't tell between pulling the card, putting it at the camera, and putting it down if they're upside down or upright, so whatever. This little bad boy is for exploration, enthusiasm, and discovery. You know, you convey that pretty well through the gas mask, through the light behind it. I don't know, even the shading. And there's something really charming about this little booklet is there's like lore. There's quotes and story bits about it. Like this one reads, "The world in our network and the physical world have become linked, and they bleed over into each other more and more as this eye-searing neon-lit moon fills up. I bet with the proper exploration and testing, we could discover all the answers behind everything. All we have to do is start looking." So, typically in a tarot read, there's a few different ways to do it, but typically it's a 3 or 5 card read, being past, present, future, or mind, body, soul, I think. Sometimes you can set up a fucking cross if you want to get like real goth about it, but really it follows that same kind of structure, right? What's come before, what's coming after, where you at right now. So The Apprentice, you know, you can read into this in so many ways. For a start, especially for like a narrative inspiration, The Apprentice of Wires being about exploration, enthusiasm, and discovery. This son of a bitch might as well be a fool. Like, this is... it's a fool, but without the fool part of it. It's very neat. So is that for the past? Sure, yeah. I've done some exploring in the past. I describe it a bit more foolhardy, but that's okay. Number two. This one is the Ace of Vials. Look at that art. So for vials, they have boozical alcohols. God, just like even the backdrop there. Webcam, you're killing me. No, I'm not manually focusing it. I love the cityscape. I love this. And after so much exposure, like in the escape room job I had, we had like classical tarot cards, which is to say something white. I forget what they're called, but the cards have no meaning. They never had any meaning. And actually, tarot has been used to help maintain storytelling in certain religions a long time ago, but isn't really done so much anymore. The cards are just story prompts, or just calls to remember a story. So what do we got? Ace of Vials. Ace of Vials. Ace of Vials. Upright is love, companionship, compassion, and joy. Share a drink with me, and let's count our blessings and forget our troubles. Well, I don't know about that for the present, dog. I mean, sure, people just got married. See, it's so cool. Our capacity for people, or our capacity to make stories and find reason where there isn't any. It's such a fucking cool thing. You could say, you know, that I just went to the wedding and it was an emotional salve that I didn't know that I needed. Maybe it's inspired me or motivated me to look more into dating or reconnecting more meaningfully with people, marking an end to this whole period of isolation caused in a large part by COVID. Maybe, or it can just be like, it could be, I could take it to mean this person who I don't know really well. We've only talked online like a couple of times, but I have a super huge crush on them and I'm not sure why. Or someone else that I know pretty well who I've talked to online that I have a big crush on and I know why. Right? Like, depending on where my head is at and what lens I'm reading this through and what I'm wanting it to assure me or dissuade me of, this can mean so many different things, which is why I'm like, it's bullshit. But also, like, that's is a creative tool, incredibly cool. So the last one for the future is, that's upside down if I hold it to the camera, the Two of Zent, or Two of Coin. For you care about these old words that don't mean anything. Now, Two of Zent. What do you got for me? Now, after I read this, I will talk about interpretation a little bit, because that's a huge part of the game, if you will. Arms, nope, that's swords. Zent, here we go. Pentacles, right, coin and pentacles. Fuck off. Same fucking thing. Two of Zent. Balance, distractions, adaptability, and juggling. He said I couldn't do everything, and I said, sure. Not everything, sure, yeah. But I can do a whole lot. And in a place like this, someone who knows halfway how to do everything is worth more than someone who knows all the way how to do just one thing. Yeah, you gotta make sure to sing a tune to distract the devil while you dance around his flames. Sure. Also, we burned while he laughs. I love the art for this one. I love the augments on this person. Like, at first I just read it as like, oh, robot. And then I'm like, oh, no, that's definitely an augment. Like, the way that class is even translated or expressed here. And Cyberpunk is about, oh, fuck. There's a quote from a graphic artist that's really good. Fuck. Essentially what it gets at is the intermixing of the mundane, or the, not even the mundane, the low, right? The violent, the carnal, the filthy, the low, and there's a great word for it and I can't remember. The intermixing of that, like, very base, grounding, irrevocable, though often shied away from humanity, and this fake, escape from all that with the technology, with the smoothness, with the sharpness, and just kind of this unapologetic meeting of the two, and sometimes crashing of the two. So you get that here, right? A little bit in the gas mask and the attire. It looks cool, like, and kind of flashy, but at the same time, the fact that you're wearing a gas mask says something about the world that you live in, that you have to be protected, that you have to protect yourself, that you have to put a barrier between yourself, that you need to be prepared. It speaks to, our degradation of the environment, the destructive nature of mankind, yada, yada, yada. But it's also juxtaposed with, like, a very smart looking jacket and skirt, maybe? No, long jacket. And, great. That's doing Cyberpunk really well. And it's doing Cyberpunk really well, and it's doing tarot very well, because so much of tarot isn't, and most of tarot isn't looking in a little booklet for what supposedly something signifies and embodies. You're supposed to, if you're a real old school practitioner, a real by the book, even though there's no book practitioner, you're supposed to draw a card. Actually, no, what you're supposed to do is sit in front of the cards, form an intention or feeling, or meditate or focus on something, let that feeling guide you to a specific card, pull that card, reveal it, and then focus on it for a while. And take it seriously and meditate on it and read it. Like, to me, I'm reading into the gas mask, the light behind it, kind of this clear halo imagery that they're going for, smooth attire, and, like, great presentation, but also this kind of darker part of the necessities of their presentation, the necessity of what they're wearing. And there's a sense of, I don't know, I don't get exploration from this so much, so maybe the artist isn't conveying that in a way that reads well to me. Isolation, not in, like, a depressing way, but in a being alone kind of way. So in that way, I kind of get the exploration. And beginning of a journey, sure. I guess at the beginning of a journey, you are alone. Sure, I buy that. Like, number 2 here. They could have very well presented the Ace of Vials, or any of the vials. They portray these bottles foamy, or these cans foamy. And sometimes I think they are glasses, but especially with the lower ones in the set, before we get to like the CEO or whatever, they're presented as kind of dirty looking, right? Kind of messy. And it's a double entendre, right? It's a drink, but it's also like nudge nudge. It's more than a drink. It's other things as well, other vices, other pleasures. It's not just booze, but it's also booze. And the juxtaposition of that and like the very clean lines on the hand, the smooth up here, their sleeve looking very well creased, not wrinkled, like there aren't any blemishes on their hand. That juxtaposition again of like beautiful and terrible. And the background of all these different houses does a great job. You have the rat's nest of wires next to bright lights and windows. You have this clear darkness with this also blinding ever-present light, and it does cyberpunk so well. So pretty too. Purple, no, it's hard to upset me with purple. This one, boy, I don't even remember. Love, I'm supposed to get love from this, huh? Am I? I mean, that was one word. Ace of vials, ace of vials. Love, companionship, compassion, and joy. No, not what I'm getting from this. Companionship, you're fucking alone, dude. Love, I mean, maybe like in a very carnal sense, like the popping open of a can, right? There's something very visceral and carnal about that imagery, sure, I guess. But no, I'd read this as very indulgent. Indulgent, yeah, as it sparks memories of drinking at night, sometimes with like friends, sometimes alone, sometimes with lovers, popping open the first can. Typically, if I'm opening a can of anything, it's probably not the way I saw the night or the day going. I'm more of a bottle kind of kid, so I don't get the positivity. I don't get the positive vibes here. What is it inverted? Isolation, repressed emotions, suppression. Not getting that either. Apprentice of wires. What's that inverted? That meet my more cynical read of it. Setbacks, pessimism, defeat, negativity. Nope, not at all. And the two of Zen. All right. The last one we'll talk about here. Do. Balance, distractions, adaptability, and juggling. I would have gotten none of that from this. This looks like a dude who's real high on a subway late at night. That's what this reads to me. There's nothing wrong with that. I've seen that person. I've been that person. You get the juxtaposition. That window cracked. Can't really tell. I think that window's supposed to be cracked behind him. So again, this intersection of the the mods he has going on, they have going on, and the clearly fantastic stuff going on there. The bright ads, the bright lights, kind of the smooth design and sleek design of the interior, but also with the broken bits, and they're clearly punk appearance, if not distressed appearance, because the mask is smiling. Are they? Yes? Maybe? Hard to tell. But again, that ambiguity, very good. And also, is it a mask? Is it a body mod? Is that just what their face looks like? Raises questions. And the necklace, totally untouched on, but definitely in here for a reason. It has a pentacle on it. Pentacle? Pentagram. What way is this facing? I think it's a pentagram, the way it's facing. And the pentacle, I think, no, the Z's in their eye are the dollar sign or the coin or pentagram or pentacles or whatever. So if you're seeing the Z's, that's where you'd see coins typically on another one. So this is pretty neat. The 8 upside their head raises questions like, is it a magic 8 ball? Is it like a racing number? So good. So good. And so much better than um here, let me 17 best tarot sets for beginners, dog. Okay, come on. Don't don't read an article. I just want the yeah, the white Rider White deck. Yeah, this is what I'm thinking of. So the Rider White deck is the are the cards that most people will think of when they think of tarot. And to me they are just like incredibly ugly, outdated, don't communicate anything in our modern, or at least in my modern narrative language. Oh, that's not the one I wanted to kill. Oh, it is. It is. But I also wanted to kill this. There we go. Rider White. Rider White looks like shit, and I hate it. Oh, you're gonna open an image in new tab. Rider White pose on. This shit was made in the Victorian era with the same sensibilities I was talking about earlier of this kind of appropriating the sense of mysticism from other peoples, from other places, and kind of mixing it all together. It's drawing on these really romantic and literally romantic notions that they had in the Victorian era of drawing inspiration, aspiration, and purpose and context from the Romans, from the classical era. So that's why you get a lot of like very Grecian, Roman kind of gestures here, if that makes sense, in the kind of things they're drinking out of. Fucking people in the 1850s weren't drinking out of cups that look like this. They didn't have pentacles rolling around. Motherfuckers weren't walking around with staves or sticks or swords in the way that they are portrayed as here. But that imagery is so important to them. Like, even, God, there's so much that you can read into here anthropologically, sociologically, about the intention, the culture, and the framework and lenses that the authors have, that the authors are taking. You can learn a lot about people through their art. Not through what they're trying to say through their art, though you can learn quite a bit from that, but more so through what they take for granted and what assumptions they make about the world that is expressed through their art. That has incredible value, and this just reeks of it to me. This reeks of it, this whole fucking set. Also, it doesn't help that I worked with this set in an escape room, and you know, a lot of the it had nothing to do with like the meaning of the cards, interpretive or no. It just had to do with the fucking numbers on the cards, and oh my heart. You take something so cool and creative and you boil it down to its most essential quality. Now the exploration of tarot in all these ways of making new sets, new designs, I think is a great way to carry on this sort of beautiful thing that I see about it, in inspiring people to create narrative where it might not otherwise exist. So yeah, that read did like nothing for me. Nothing for me emotionally. Right? This idea of a journey, I mean, like, fuck, dog, yeah, sure. That's so vague and open-ended, and also that's not what that card said to me at all. The past looked... See, here's a fucked up thing. I can't get a second first look, right? So my first look was qualified and tainted by, and like I talked about earlier, shaped by and molded by the definition and expectation of what it would mean. Somebody's best tarot reading would be them going in blind, not knowing what any cards are, not knowing what the fuck the sun or the moon or the tower or the chariot mean. No goddamn clue. Going in blind and working with someone or on their own, trying to read what a card means or what they see in it or what feeling they get from it. That is absolutely the best way to do this, I think, if you want that like truly mystical experience, or at least the closest you can get to it. But once you start learning, and even then you're beholden to the artist, right? You are absolutely beholden to the artist, their worldview, their culture, their morals, their representation and idea of certain ideas. Like the idea of like you're reaching back through time and space to a more magical, romantic age. An image that has gone unchanged for centuries, presented for you now. Ooh, wow. Ooh. Yeah, the mystique is there, right? But you're not pulling these from the depths of hell out of the hand of Lucifer himself, right? These are not being handed down by the Archangel Gabriel and bestowed upon your table set. There's no transcendent, magical, mystical, distant past that these are drawing from. No. These were printed probably within the last 20 years by workers, and the art on them is the artist of a bunch of rich, racist white guys in the 1800s portraying their mythologized worldview of history and ideas and their philosophy into art that fit that vibe and fit those lenses. So it's a lie. It's a lie, and it's not one of the good ones. It's a very dangerous one. If you're going to use tarot, use a new set by a new artist. Don't use Rider White. Don't use anything that really pulls upon history and tradition, because the history and tradition that it pulls from is bad. Is very bad, very problematic, very troubling, very perverted and twisted. So if you have any intention of, even if you fully believe in tarot, even if this is part of something very meaningful to you, you don't do good work with bad tools. Rider White is bad tools. I feel like there's more of an exchange, though. The artist can't really control how the work is interpreted. Oh, but you fucking try. You fucking try. Yeah, as an artist, you control everything about it, right? You control the framing, the lighting, what's in it, what's not in it. Even something like photography. If you are being a very intentional artist, which is to say, if you are being a good artist, you have an intention behind everything that's in there, or at least a notion behind everything that's in there. Nothing is ever in any image by mistake. Not the way people are facing, not their body language, not their expression, not the lighting, not the color of their clothing, not the style of their clothing. Fucking none of it. And everything is laden with politics, laden with it. Even if the artist isn't intending to make a political work, in existing as a political creature, as we all are, and having preconceived notions about the world, about having ideas that are deeply and irrevocably interwoven with politics and economics and, material reality, their expression in the language they're using, because that's what art is, this visual language that they're using is conveying or trying to convey ideas or preconceptions in a way that's going to read through quite often. Yeah, no, kinda. Like, the once art enters the common space, people will use it how they will, regardless of the artist's intent. Right? I mentioned Pepe a little bit earlier. Kinda. But some things, no. Some things, good art, let's say, there's so much fucking circle jerking you can do around, like, what's the meaning of art? It's multi-layered, right? It's multifaceted. There's the intention and communication by design. There's what it's communicating in effect, depending on the background and the language and the lenses of the audience. And then there's, like, culturally what it becomes and signifies based on its relationship to other images. Yada, 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 yada. But you never really completely erase the author, right? Love the art, hate the artist. No, quit liking the fucking art is where I stand as an artist. That's my take. Just quit fucking consuming what they're producing. God, original Pepe. Well, it's not the original Pepe meme. It was from a You don't even have the original comic? What kind of fucking garbage article is this? It was about Pepe pissing with his pants down, right? Am I wrong about this? Okay, no, these are other Pepe memes. So, would you give me the original? Know your meme? Just give me the original, you son of a bitch. I remember it. I was there in the olden days. I was there when this meme was forged. I saw the original Pepes. Okay, wow, this article is long as hell. Fuck it. The original Pepe, pretty sure, was Frogman Pepe peeing in a urinal with his pants down. Other person, Dogman, Bearman, can't remember. He doesn't get a name. Walks in, sees him with his peeing with his pants around his ankles, and I think he asks him why he doesn't, and the response is, feels good, man. And feels good, man, I don't know, it just kind of has a funny intocation to it. That's not what it's called. The way it sounds and just how utilizable it is for fitting in a meme format, dog, yeah, immediately took off. So feels good, man. And then ironic takes on it. 4chan is the reason why it became what it was. But there's still the aesthetic of the author in there, like, why a frog? Why a frog is your protagonist? What associations do we have about frogs? Frogs are typically pretty cute, and the character is supposed to be likable and affable and somewhat silly. Those are characteristics in a lot of American associations that frogs have. They're likable. We have singing frogs. We have dancing frogs. We have hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. We have oh shit, what up? We have my bitrate went to hell, but it's back. We have oh fuck, the one of the frog on the unicycle. Like, frogs are kind of harmlessly funny. Budweiser, yeah, that's a great one. So there's a very strong reason why the author picked a frog, and what the frog is conveying in being a frog, what emotionally we get from it being a fucking frog, is something that still, and in all of its iterations, was never removed from Pepe. So that original language, that original intention of the author, of the artist, is preserved. So this idea of the death of the author, yeah, maybe a lot of it changes, but not all of it, right? And it's in studying these details that you kind of get lost in if you're looking at the forest and not the trees. If you look at the fucking trees, there's a lot to any piece of art. And the great fucking awesome thing about it from a historian perspective most of the time the artists don't know that they're doing it when they're doing it, so it's incredibly honest. If you want the truth of something, don't look at what people are saying. Look at the assumptions they're making. Yeah. God, it's so good. Know Your Meme for Feels Good Man has the comic? I might have just been blind when I was on the fucking page. Oh, you know what? No, I was on Pepe. That's why. If I was on Feels Good Man... There we go. There we go. Fair enough. Yep, there it is. It's not a urinal, it's a toilet. Look at me. Look at me being wrong. And describing this hairy motherfucker as a dog is, like, wildly generous. Oh, yeah. Just look into the void here real quick. Motherfucker, you remember this is a dog? You think this is a dog? Well, it's a dog-bear thing. But, like, what even is that? Wait, he has ears here. And this is a completely other person. Okay, is dog, not dog. What a weird comic format. They're not particularly good comics. Gonna say that. Gonna say that played a leading role in why the author has not been able to successfully reclaim it. Also, dog, when something's on the internet, it's not yours anymore. Especially if 4chan gets its hands on it. Especially if B gets its hands on it. B gets something? Nah, dog, that's theirs now. That's theirs now. Memes are an inherently socialist art form. I wish. But no, memes are just human. Like, oh my god, language is a fucking meme. Like, every word and sound we utter is just a meme. They're shared associations that are derived from, like, a shared experience or shared idea without being a one-to-one representation of it. Right? Like, woof. No fucking dog says woof. No dog says bark. I can walk up to a friend of mine and say, sure is a lamp in here. Feels real moon out. And he will know what the fuck I'm talking about. No one else will understand what the fuck I'm talking about. You might think, oh, yeah, I know what a lamp is. Maybe Alex is saying it's well lit in here. Nope. Maybe the moon thing is just like it's pretty out or it's dark out or like no, they are totally irrational, illogical connections made through drugs that we have towards these words that don't mean anything anymore. Memes are the basis of language, and they drive me fucking crazy. I love them. But also they're just everywhere all the time. And there is a lot of validity in calling it a socialist art form in that the right can't meme. It's true fact. They're produced and spread without profit motive and outside capitalist modes of market economics. Maybe I would disagree. I would say, wow, we're at 2 hours. Okay. Should probably wrap up before too long. And this is so far departed from where we started out. Not bad. That's how these go. I'm happy about it. I'd say they're not divorced. A lot of memes is people don't do it anonymously. On 4chan, yes. But the direction of 4chan and other image boards like that, are they socialist though? But especially on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on the one all the kids are on with those damn videos and can't remember. I'm old. Memes are a marketing method. Yeah, they're a marketing method for me. If my name is tied to something, posts that do well, posts that go viral, memes that take on, in some small part, I would argue that that's trying to get attention, trying to get fame and recognition, and there's a profit motive there. It's not money, but social capital is still capital. Social capital is still a form of currency. In all of our relationships, we have transactional relationships. Even if we don't like that idea, the relationship of a parent to their child is transactional. The relationship of a lover to a lover is transactional. The relationship of a friend to a friend is transactional. My relationship with the the goddamn beautiful family that operate my favorite Mexican food place like 2 doors down, that's transactional. The way that we interact with each other, how we present to one another, how we don't, what we say, what we don't say, it's transactional. Wanting people to think that you're cool is so you have that social capital for security, for affirmation, for stuff. Sometimes it is stuff. Don't know, very cynically, I would say the profit motive is still there, or at least some kind of self-interest is there. Oh yeah. Memes are used for just straight up marketing like all the time. Yeah. Unfortunately, they're all kind of bad, but well, not all of them. That's overly simplistic. There are some very intelligently done ones. It's the effective marketing or a product of, and I've talked about this a little bit in the past. Around the end of the Second World War, all these people schooled in psychology who had been employed during the war or were from this educational school developed during the war for propaganda were now in the free and open market and took that understanding of how to emotionally manipulate through very real psychological principles their audience and completely transformed advertising and marketing. Completely transformed. It was a more progressive, slow transition than that, but it's really after the end of the Second World War you can see a massive shift in the way that things are produced and sold, or at least superficially here in the United States. So it's an inevitability that memes would become a way that things are sold, but oh my god, it's so bad. It's so bad. No one's good at it. No one's good at it is the fucking thing. I don't think I mind the marketingification of memes, but Begone brand is a meme for a reason, because they're so fucking bad at it. One, because they don't pay enough for the positions. Two, because people who will actually work wholeheartedly for a brand memeing for them, pretty small group of people. The best memers are like shitlord teenagers. Honestly, with the youth are the good memers. It's a young man's game. I used to meme, but that was 2 whole years ago. Times pass me by. I don't understand TikTok. Okay, I should wrap this up. Thanks for hanging out. I do like these let's just bullshit and talk things. I do it a lot for me. Selfishly, obviously. Yeah, say they're socialists every time capitalists interacts with memes. It's fucking awful. I get it. And I get what you're getting at. I think there's definitely another word, but I'm not, it's like, 2, 3 a.m.? 4 a.m. Fuck. 4 a.m. There's another word that would probably fit. It's not. I don't know. I guess it depends on the person, right? And the circumstance. There's the subjectivity of what's good and what's a great meme. There's some boomers that fucking love some of the garbage. Baby Peanut Head. Baby Peanut Head was an incredible meme. Done by a corporate account. Why was it incredible? Because it was deeply fucking cursed. It was incredibly cursed. It was nightmarishly cursed, like cats, right? Just insanely cursed, but good. damn effective. They were trying to catch on to that whole Baby Yoda thing and just dramatically failed. Good meme. Very good meme. Horrifying meme, but good. Totally missed the mark on what they were trying to go for. But effective. Yeah, like, oh, I think they're more no, that's not the right word. It's not egalitarian. Fuck. There's a word to describe something as belonging to the populace. Lowbrow. Memes are definitely lowbrow. This definition, the distinction between low culture and high culture, is something that has existed for a long time, but was really entrenched again in the 1800s, as far as our culture goes. Nah. Communist, not it. I want something a lot more generic, like populace or lowbrow or low culture or God damn it. Paris is a blank city. Metropolitan. Yeah, but metropolitan doesn't really work for what I'm trying to say. Metropolitan's close. Collectivist is close. Vulgar. Vulgar's probably as close as we're gonna get. All of these are good guesses. All of these are in the neighborhood of what the fucking word is. But yeah, memes definitely are. They're not collectivists, right? They're very individualist until they meet other people, and then culture does its thing. But vulgar or lowbrow doesn't necessarily mean vulgar. It just means not of the upper class. Like penny dreadfuls are a great example, which were spooky stories zines, basically, from the 1800s that went for a penny or a nickel, and were about topics that the upper class just didn't talk about. But it's not necessarily bad. Cosmopolitan's a lot closer. Yeah, cosmopolitan's probably about it. Memes are very cosmopolitan. They're of the people. That can be good or bad, right? There are memes about genocide out there, right? There are memes about sexual assault out there. There are memes about violence against communities that are considered to be undesirables out there. The right can't meme humorously, but within their own circles, by their own tastes, apparently they think they're doing pretty well, and by God, they're trying. I think they're collectivists in that they can't exist outside of a collective shared set of references. Maybe, but that's not what collectivist means, right? They're of a culture, but collectivist specifically means with an emphasis on what I want to make sure I'm not talking out of my ass. Relating to a practice or principle of giving a group priority over the individual is what collectivist means. So you're right in what you're communicating. You're not wrong. Not wrong. I just pick a different word, right? They're communal in the sense that they exist out of a shared set of references. They are of a shared culture because of that. Two people don't have a shared set of references. Our memes don't mean anything to each other, but they do. It's a fucked up thing. They do. The shared set of references. This is. I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here. Darmok and Gelada Tanagra. It is though, dog. And the great thing about that is, you have stuff. You have a shared existence with the other person that you can meme about. That's the entire Star Trek episode, right? Like, the creation of language as a meme through the invention of the shared reality or the recognition of shared reality. Memes are the way that we connect to one another. And okay, so I guess I get what you're getting at there by using collectivist, that memes are fundamentally about connecting people or sharing things, just like all languages. I'd use communal, but It's because I'm an anthropologist, but that's still not the right word. There's some three-syllable word that I forget. Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah, studying that shit is so fucking cool. Like, xenoanthropology. Obviously, it's just an academic circle jerk, but the idea of trying to create a language or a shared means of communication with a non-human life form, sentient life form, that might not share any of our reference points is so fucking cool and fun to think about. Like there's math, there's like the laws of physics, and trying to nail down reality to these absolute shared principles is a lot harder than you'd think, because even the laws of physics typically have exceptions to them under certain circumstances, and the ways that we observe and interpret reality are very small in the scope of all the energy spectra. It's a lot of fun, but it's totally academic because I don't see any aliens. Do you? We can't even fucking talk to dolphins and belugas and ravens, and my God, we're trying. And yeah, we taught Coco how to sign, but it doesn't necessarily Coco knew what language was. It's how do you prove sentience, right? You can't Turing test a gorilla, or we didn't. I understand what it's like to meet a person of your culture after talking to somebody who don't know or share what you're talking about. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I don't know. There's something to this. Definitely something to this. That's harder to pin down than my vocabulary can do right now. I studied this shit a long, long time ago. Hmm. Well, that's not a good breaking point. I do think I'm gonna get out of here now. Gonna wait until the bit rate. There we go. I do think I'm gonna get out of here now. The drops are not my computer. They're not Twitch. They're my IP is doing some repairs right now, so every once in a while it goes from like 5K up speed to like 20, and then back to 5K. Mmm. During a Mid-Autumn festival, I went asking a bunch of people about it. Nobody gave you a positive response until a few days ago. Somebody you hadn't talked to for so long asked you if you met your family. Yeah. Man. I don't really practice too many of our holidays or seasonal observances here, so I'm not super removed from that context, right? Um, I I don't know. I'm so far from where I was born. Like I'm just kind of used to, as much as you can culturally diverge while staying in the same country. That's about as alienated from my roots as I am. Anyhow, it's 4 a.m. I need to get to bed. Thanks for hanging out, both of you. I hope the rest of your morning or night. Yeah, it's morning for us. It's still night on that side of the Pacific, if I'm doing the math right. I might not. Either way, I hope that it goes well. Thanks for hanging out. I kind of intend to be streaming every day now that I'm back. I don't know what the hell to stream, so we're kind of playing it by ear. Honestly, I've been playing a lot of Super Auto Pets, and I think there's enough people streaming that, so we'll figure it out. Huh? We'll figure it out. But until, God, at least until I get some sleep, I'm gonna say thanks for hanging out. I will see you all later. But until then, take care, toodaloo, and goodbye.